Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Collider Mailbag. I'm Kristian Harloff, and this is the show where we answer all of your questions. Everything that you guys have submitted at Collider Video, we have gone through them. We're going to answer them, and we have a really cool crew with us. Just as always, please welcome the lovely Natasha Martinez.
Hello.
How are you?
Super excited to be here.
Good, and also excited to be here. He is the Tzeng master, Dennis Tzeng. What's up, Dennis?
Doing good. I'm waiting for that Anderson Silva Michael Bisping fight.
Who is going to win that fight?
I think it's going to be Anderson Silva. He's just, even though he's old, I think he's got the skills for it.
Okay, Anderson Silva, we are predicting, is going to win that fight. I think that that's possible as well. All right, guys, I'm really excited here for getting. This has been, first of all, I wanted to say, like, the last couple of weeks, this has kind of been the team for Mailbag, and we've been getting some great responses from you guys. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you guys have been submitting some really cool questions and some different questions, and we've been going, there's been behind the scenes stuff, and it's been really cool to see, you know, because there's been some big announcements, obviously, over the last week or two, and to be able to go into a lot of that stuff and then still bounce opinions off one another. It's been a lot of fun. All right, Natasha, what is first?
Okay, Roderick Kingsley writes, I was just wondering, with all the different studios dying to get properties like the MCU, DCCU, and even Fox's X-Men universe, why don't any of them try to make a brand new universe of heroes? I understand that it could be an upward battle, but the world is changing and we live in a time where a movie about Guardians of the Galaxy outgrossed a movie about the Man of Steel. So I don't see why it's not possible.
Dennis, what do you think?
Well, it's not that it's not possible. There's just a lot of risk to it, because if you want to start your own universe, you have no brand name recognition. All these iconic superheroes, Batman and Superman, and even something like Guardians of the Galaxy, which wasn't that well known, still has a back history of stories that they can pull from. I think that's why studios like these comic book movies so much, is there's already stories, and they can kind of pick and choose and pluck the best parts of it and turn it into the movie. Because let's say something like, you know, Batman has like 600, 700 issues, you know, tons and tons of stories. They don't pick all of them. They pick the best ones. And so I think studios would be reluctant. They're more, they'd rather just pull something that's already existing. Could they do it? Yes, but it's very high risk. And
so, correct me if I'm wrong, he's basically asking if, like, so more or less what Universal's attempting with, like, the monster movies, right?
Yeah, but at least even with the Universal monster movies, that's known properties, right? Everyone knows what the Mummy is, but everyone knows what Frankenstein is.
Just going off of just superheroes, too, like, because for me, it's been done before in a very briefly, whether it be Tarantino in his universe or, you know, with Kevin Smith in his universe, but he doesn't do it in the same way that Marvel does with full movies. But something like Guardians of the Galaxy, by the way, Guardians of the Galaxy also had the luxury that if it failed, right, Marvel still had all its other movies. So it was just one, because they haven't really crossed over yet with the other characters, with Iron Man, and they're setting up their own universe. So it's essentially right now, even though they're in the same universe, it's standalone movies. We haven't had any. I don't know what the second one, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, is going to hold, and if we're going to see anybody from, like, the Avengers show up. But I think once we get to the Infinity War, they'll probably show up for sure. But branching out and doing it, I mean, I think what they'd have to do first, the studios, is make, like, a really, like, let's say Hancock would have been, like, a mega hit. If Hancock would have been a huge movie, and then building up, or even Kick-Ass, even if Kick-Ass was, like, something that made $200-300 million domestically, then you could start spinning off characters, but you've got to have box office return also.
I mean, just think about the way Star Wars came to be. Star Wars, the first movie, because it was so big, they were allowed to do the sequels, and then now we're talking about more sequels to the whole universe. It started somewhere, so yes, it can happen. And also with the Guardians of the Galaxy thing he's talking about, we have to remember, even though that was not well known, at least it had the Marvel name attached to it, right? So people trusted that Marvel name. It wasn't the first movie out the gate. What number was, like, 9 or 10 or something, something like that. So they were able to build upon their own success. So if a studio wants to do a whole new universe, that's a lot tougher.
It's risky because look at Creed. Right now, Creed, even though it's a spin-off movie, too, still in the same universe and has Rocky in it. And eventually, what will happen is Rocky, whether or not it's the next movie, it will phase out of the film, and then Creed will hopefully stand on its own. But you had to build Creed off of Rocky, like you had to, because of the brand recognition of Rocky, and even that was a risk. When they announced Creed was coming out, people were like, "Come on!" Even Stallone says it. He's like, "You're doing what?" Wait, really? But you're not going to hear any complaints from me. I loved it from the second it was announced.
Oh, you won't hear any complaints from Sylvester Stallone either now with his Oscar nomination.
No way. But even when he was pitched, he said no. But it was because Ryan Coogler thought, this is a brand that's strong enough that I can go ahead and make a pitch off of it, really take this cinematic universe a little further. But it goes off what you said, though, Dennis. You have to have a name and a character that has already been successful.
How much do you think is too much, though, when you're developing off of, like, a single universe, you know? Like, how much is too much Marvels or too much DC?
Until they stop making money.
Yeah, right now we don't know where that limit or cap is. Right now it's what, Marvel? How many movies is Marvel having this year? 3?
I think 2.
No, 3, I think.
Is it 3 this year? Let's see. Doctor Strange, Civil War, and what's the third?
Oh, no, I'm thinking of
It's
Thor.
gonna that's next year, but they're gonna start doing 3, and we're gonna start getting about 6 superhero movies a year. And I think DC's gonna start doing 3, but they kind of have to.
They got to catch up.
Yeah, they got to catch up, but that you might see that number pull back if their movies that are coming out don't do as well as they want them to. But you might see them stick to that schedule if they destroy like they hope that they will. But I will say something I've been saying on Jedi Council for a very long time, and I think that eventually Star Wars is going to have 2 movies a year. And when you hear that as a non-Star Wars hardcore fan, you're like, that might be a lot of Star Wars movies a year, but it's really not when you think about you're going to have a saga film every 2 years, right? And then if you get a movie, and I'm repeating myself from Jedi Council, but let's say Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Rogue One for that matter. Let's say there's a character in Rogue One that comes out, and it opens itself up for a sequel. The way that it's scheduled right now, you wouldn't be able to put that sequel out until about 2019 or 2020 or maybe in 2021, and how long is too long? So eventually, I think Star Wars, if they have like an Obi-Wan movie or if the young Han Solo movie does well, eventually you're going to start seeing 2 Star Wars movies in the universe because they're going to be making money.
But doesn't that decrease the novelty of it?
Not necessarily, because of how many... That's my point of, I think, what people will think right away, because if you look at something like The Force Awakens, where if you did The Force Awakens and then the sequel to that movie 6 months later, and then the next movie 6 months later after that, yes, that decreases the value of it. But because the Star Wars universe is so big, and when you have something like the young Han Solo movie, which takes place about whatever it is, 20, 30, 40 years beforehand, and then you do another movie that's maybe 1,000 years beforehand, but still in the Star Wars universe, whatever that might be, they're brand new movies, kind of what Marvel has done with the genre of film.
Yeah, and the reason why studios love it is because of all those connections. You're more likely to go see something along those lines if it's, part of that same universe.
Right. Okay, what's next?
Mike Hess writes, sometimes third movies in a franchise are somewhat underwhelming. Spider-Man 3, X-Men The Last Stand. Are there any specific ways that you wish a final film in a franchise would have gone? For mine, I've been saying for years now that the third Nolan Batman film could have been an intimidating and realistic Penguin, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, rise in the organized crime world during Batman's absence, thus causing Batman's return. Penguin then recruits the help of Riddler, played by either David Tennant or Neil Patrick Harris, to try to stop Batman, and Christopher Nolan's genius mind can take it from there. Thanks, and keep up the good work.
Wait a minute. Did Christopher Nolan send in like an old treatment and go into some pseudonym? That was actually kind of a really good idea. I like that idea. But I liked The Last Batman. I know that some people find it to be... Did you like it?
I liked it, but it was disappointing in the sense of... It's coming off The Dark Knight, which is actually my favorite comic book movie of all time.
Yeah.
The expectations were just so high that in some areas it was disappointing. It was still, I thought, a good movie.
I agree. For me, though, the thing that... I think because of what those movies did, the first 2 movies... And what Nolan did in general, basing Batman in that kind of realistic universe, and you felt that it was the dark tone and everything that he put there, that the third one was more of a Batman movie. It was more of that kind of comic book, he just shows up after everyone else is holed up and he's able to get in. How's he able to get in? He's Batman. If that would have been the first movie, you wouldn't have cared. But because it was the third movie and because everything had explanations as to why and what Nolan set up in the first 2, that if there were any holes at all in the third one, everyone was calling him out. I didn't have that problem with it, and I really liked Bane, and I liked what they did with Bane, and I could... what's her face? Marion Cotillard, her death could have been a little better, but... But other than that, I mean, I had fun with the movie. But for me, it'd probably be the last Matrix. You'd probably have to fix the second one with it as well too.
Yes.
But the second movie to me, I remember seeing it in the theater and being disappointed with it, but going, you know what? The second movie actually could be all right if they really nail the third one, and they don't. It's just they didn't know what to do with the movie. It was like they were kind of writing it on set. How I would have liked to seen that one end. I would have liked to seen them kind of go back to what they did in the first one with more of the just really playing more into the Matrix and not going the multiple Smiths. The reason they wanted to do that, the Agent Smith, they wanted to do that so much was because the CGI. And the way that the way that the CGI was working at the time, like, oh, look what we can do with our cool toys, and it's like you missed what you did in the first one. You didn't have to. You used all those toys in the first one in such a way that we didn't even really notice it because it seemed like it was actually happening. I felt like I was in the world. So I'd take the third Matrix for me.
Yeah, I didn't like the second or the third Matrix. For me, talking about Spider-Man 3, I think there was remnants of a good movie. I mean, I love Venom, but there was just too many villains. You had Venom, you had Sandman, and you still had Green Goblin.
Right.
I think reduce it down. I actually like Sandman's storyline in that movie, so if they just focused on that, take out that Venom, because that Venom wasn't any good anyways. Take out all the emo Spider-Man.
Dancing, and crying.
That was so painful. Yeah. And the hair and the face.
Oh, yeah.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy. At that point, I was like, what am I watching here?
I remember getting angry in the theater, like going, what? Talk about coming off a movie
that
like
was really good.
The second one was great, and then it's like someone goes, "Nah, we just want to take a big old poop." Right on. That's what they did. All right, what's next?
Guri writes, "Hello, Collider crew. I'm a big fan from Georgia. What is your favorite movie speech? Mine is Al Pacino's last one in Scent of a Woman. Keep up the good work."
Hello, my name is Broken Record, and I'm going to say William Wallace in Braveheart. Anytime I'm allowed to bring up Braveheart, I will. I mean, come on, man. The guy, when he's riding on the horse and telling everybody that they'll never take our freedom. I mean, if you saw that movie and you didn't get worked up, that's one of the best speeches of all time, and that and probably the president's speech from Independence Day. But as far as what William Wallace did, I think that Mel Gibson really embodied the spirit of what William Wallace meant to the Scottish people in that particular scene, and it wasn't just to have a good speech. It was the fact that this is what this dude meant. This was the theme of what the Scottish people were going through and what they had to fight in order to secure their freedom. So it's William Wallace's speech in Braveheart.
Yeah, that one's a good one. And then something similar to that is King Theoden's speech in Return of the King when he comes out. Because remember, he had been
Braveheart-esque.
Yeah, it was very, because he had for so long been like succumbed to like I don't know, how would you call it, Sauron's powers or whatever. And then for him to come out there, after seeing his son had died and rallying his troops and saying, we're gonna, kill all these people or whatever and fight until our last breath or whatever he was saying. That one moved me. And then let's see what else we have.
And just to let you know, the Lord of the Rings, it is Saruman, actually.
Saruman. Sorry. Herb Brooks / Kurt Russell, his speech for Miracle.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great speech. What else? Al Pacino. He mentioned Al Pacino, but not from Center One, for Any Given Sunday. He gives that speech halfway through. Yeah, they even used it in a commercial. I don't know if you remember. They used it in a commercial once where they took his speech and had like that part about the fighting for inches, and that's what. Not what just football is. That's what life is. That's a great speech.
I mean, he's got some of the best, but I still, I'm in the dark here. You understand? The other one that is Rocky from Rocky Balboa. It's not about how hard you get hit. What is it? It's about how hard you get. It's how you get up and keep moving forward. Yeah. Yes, it's that. No, sorry, I messed it up. Here we go. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Sorry, messed up the quote. Sorry, Stallone.
He's got Rocky has a bunch. Remember at the end of Rocky 4, if I can change,
you can change. Everybody can change.
I think we'll just do the rest of the show. You guys doing that voice with the mouth thing and everything.
What's next?
So funny. Matthew Yamasaki writes, writes, "Hey Collider, do you think we will be introduced to the next Spider-Man before or after Uncle Ben's demise? And is there any chance of seeing Uncle Ben's death within Civil War? I thought it would be an interesting twist to go off of the origin we all know and love and actually have Uncle Ben die as a casualty during the Civil War. Thanks and keep up the great work."
No more Uncle Ben death. He's died too many times.
I can't take it anymore.
No more Uncle Ben death. We don't need. I mean, Martin Sheen died. Everybody's dying. No more. We get it. He's Spider-Man. We know he is. And there was a screenshot that somebody sent me as I was going through the mailbag questions the other day, and I was looking at. There was, I guess, from the Ant-Man special features. Did you see this? So there's like a news report, and on the bottom it says Tony Stark offers college programs to inner city kids, and it's like, so I'm thinking that Peter Parker's going to fight on the side of Tony Stark, and I think that he's going to, whether or not Tony Stark makes his suit or whatever he's going to wind up doing, but I don't think we're going to see Uncle Ben's death, and I think that the Russo brothers have made it very clear. We covered this on Movie Talk last week. It's Captain America's story. If you start putting in there, it's not to say that he doesn't maybe mention it or something happens, but as far as seeing it happen, I don't want to see it. Do you?
No, because we've seen it too much recently. You know, we already had 2 origin stories for him, and even though I like who is this? Is it Matthew? I like his idea of a different spin of the casualty of Uncle Ben instead of the mugger, the robber in the alleyway.
Right.
It's this, but I don't think Sony would allow for such a big change. And then I hope they do it like they did the Hulk, the Edward Norton Hulk. Just do it in the credits, right?
Yeah.
Do his origin story in the credits.
For when you do it in the standalone movie.
Yeah, the solo movie, not Civil War.
No, not Civil War. You don't need, because for me it's much more of an impact, because right now with Civil War, I actually love the fact we know he's going to be in the movie, but he's not the focus. Like, even in the trailer, like when you go to YouTube, everyone, it's not like one after the next. Where's Spider-Man? How come we haven't seen Spider-Man? Everyone's so excited from what we've seen so far that it's going to make so much more of an impact to when we're watching a movie and in the middle of the fight, who swings in, drops down, and starts kicking some ass, and it's Spider-Man. You're going to be like, okay, wait a minute. I'm down. Like, this is the way to do it. I don't need him to be, oh, but now he's going through a tragedy, and now how is he going to find his powers? He's got his powers already. We know that he's got his powers, so let's leave it at that. All right, what's next?
David Rubin writes, "Hi Collider. First of all, thank you so much for all the great work you do, and it is extremely, extremely appreciated. I read online that Rogue One, like Hateful Eight, will be shot in Ultra Panavision 70mm. Do you know if this is true? And also, do you think it would benefit the film greatly, or do you think that most film goers won't even notice?"
Dennis, you don't think they'll notice at all, but do you think, though?
The great thing about this is actually not being shot in Panavision 70mm. It's being shot in a customized IMAX version of the Arri Alexa 65, which is digital. So they're making it. So I can't wait for the people who still think it's going to be shot in 70mm.
And don't even notice it.
Not even notice. Or they'll watch and go, oh, man, they got to shoot all the movies like this. You know? Like thinking like it was shot in 70mm when it wasn't.
Well, it's funny because we get that question all the time, whether it be on Mailbag or, I think there's a lot of the film purists and film fans are like, should we stick to film? And you've been a big advocate as far as digital goes. A lot of people don't even notice. Yeah. So this is kind of one of those examples.
Yeah, and I'm not against film. I think people can shoot on film, and filmmakers should be able to use it whenever they want. I'm just saying, like, I just don't think it's not a deciding factor on whether a movie is good or not.
Right.
And I guess originally the news had come out that they were going to do IMAX 70mm, but they've changed over to the Arri Alexa 65. Right. I think they're shooting on Panavision lenses, so maybe that's where the confusion happened. But I just think it's going to be interesting when that movie comes out and some people are still thinking that it's being shot in 70mm.
Right. All right, what's next?
Javier writes, "Saludos desde Santiago de Chile. Do you think a successful first movie puts pressure in the director for the second movie or gives more liberty for experiment? I'm thinking Empire Strikes Back, Terminator 2, Alien 2, all very different tone and rhythm from the first one."
I think it's a mixture of both of those. I think that there's absolutely a very successful film. And I also think it depends on the filmmakers and who's making the films and who's got the power to make the decisions as well, too. Like, when a George Lucas and Spielberg, because George Lucas made the decision to pass off Empire Strikes Back to Kirshner. And I think you look at something along the lines here of now with using The Force Awakens as an example, we already knew that Rian Johnson was going to be taking the reins over from JJ. We assumed the movie would be successful. It, of course, was one of the most successful movies of all time. Certainly domestically it was. And, so with Rian Johnson now, is he excited with the possibilities of what he's going to be able to do and that he's furthering the story of this brand new generation? Of course he's excited, but is he also probably terrified in the fact that he's got to now, all the spotlight's on him now. So I'm sure that that's why you get into the game now. It's why you play the game. I mean, that's part of any performer or any director or actor. There's that pressure, and any good performer or good person that is in the public spotlight and has this kind of responsibility you get those butterflies. Like, you don't think Mike Tyson got butterflies before he went to the ring, or Muhammad Ali? Of course they did. Like, those people, like, that's the same thing. But being able to do that with a big franchise, it's a big responsibility. And the greats do great, and the others not so great.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure, especially if you are a director that you didn't do the first one, because there's probably like some directors, you have a first successful movie and then you get to make the second one, you kind of get probably a little more confidence from the success of the first one, and maybe you can take liberties. But if you're talking about a situation like with J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, he's taking over for him. Another one I think of is James Cameron, back before he was nobody. He took over Aliens from Ridley Scott's Alien. And not only did he take over for him, if you watch the behind-the-scenes stuff, he took it over and shot it in England, which is, so Alien and Ridley Scott are beloved over there. And they kind of, even the crew, were kind of resentful of, why is this American guy coming over here with no name? Nobody knows who this guy is.
Doing Alien.
Doing his version. And like, his version isn't like the one we know. And so I'm sure he probably felt a lot of pressure then. Yeah,
and sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, not necessarily a big successful movie, but you look something for me, when Jeff Wadlow took over for Matthew Vaughn after like Kick-Ass, didn't really work, because I think for me, Matthew Vaughn has that style and knew, and when someone creates a certain tone, and there's sometimes a director can't either do that or further it into a different tone that doesn't really work. And I thought that was the case for Kick-Ass 2. Not that Kick-Ass 1 was so successful, but just an example of someone going enough to where fans did want to see a second one. It just didn't work as well as the first one.
Yeah, I like Kick-Ass 2, but it definitely wasn't as good as the first one.
Okay, what's next?
Mark Devlin writes, "Hey guys, what's your favorite post-apocalyptic movie? Mine is probably 28 Days Later. It's my favorite Danny Boyle film, and also is up there with my favorite films of all time."
Post-apocalyptic. The Road's pretty good.
The Road, John Hillcoat. We just had John Hillcoat.
Yeah, The Road. It's depressing as all hell, but it's a really well made film. And Mad Max. I mean, Mad Max, to me, any of the Mad Max films, the last one of Fury Road, you'd say, just because Miller had the benefit of working with today's technology and everything was to make that really big budget version of Mad Max. You'd probably have to put Mad Max in the top 2 or 3 of all time. What do you say?
Yeah, I'd have this most recent Mad Max Fury Road up there, and then the other one would be Children of Men. When you talk about depressing, that's a depressing movie.
Yeah.
No one can have children.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's crazy. And then you have Clive Owen running around with the one lady that's pregnant. It's a really depressing movie, but also very kind of, I don't know, beautiful in some ways.
It is. I mean, Alfonso Cuarón is one of the best out there, and I didn't really love that movie when I saw it in the theater, and it's something that I've gone to appreciate going back and watching it, because I think that just becoming more of a film fan, getting older and watching and just going back and understanding like the themes more than I did, and I think I was expecting something more when I not more but different when I saw it originally in the theaters. But that's a good one too. I'm trying to think of some other ones that we might missed out on too.
The Postman.
Oh, good lord. Well, I mean, no. Would you could also, I mean, Escape from New York. But you could say the Hunger Games too.
Yeah,
Hunger Games are because the first. I'd say that the first, for me, the second Hunger Games is the best. The Mockingjay Part 1 I liked. 2 was a disappointment though.
Oh, really? I didn't even see 2 because I hated Mockingjay Part 1.
Oh, see, I liked Part 1.
You're talking about the final. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the second. I was like, the second one is the best.
Catching Fire is the best. The first one, as far as movies go, the first one was okay. Second one was great. I really liked Mockingjay Part 1, but Part 2 was disappointing.
What about WALL-E?
WALL-E would be,
absolutely. Yeah. All right. Last one?
Yes, last
Okay.
one. Ronnie Shama writes, "Hi, Collider, big fan. I remember you talking about how the middle budget movies are disappearing, and now there's only high 100 million or low indie $15 to $20 million movies. Since Deadpool did so well on a $58 million budget, do you think we will see a mid-range budget film return? Thanks, and bring on the filthy."
I mean, here and there. The problem is that, because you think Deadpool 2 is going to be $58 million? No, because the reason why Deadpool was $58 million is because the studio was like, I don't know what this is going to do. Like, this is all we can give you guys.
Yeah.
Go do it.
And it was lower than that before. Then they added some more money.
But then they cut more.
Yeah.
But then they cut $7 million before, like a week before production. Remember the writers said
Yeah, but in post they put more money back in.
Right. But still, so it's, if a studio really believes in a big property, they're going to throw the 100 and 200 because of the change of the dollar and everything too. The studios and the amount of money that they have made off these other movies that have made 100, they have the money to spend it, so they're using it. So it's either the smaller movies, they don't do 60, 70 anymore too, and it's also because prices on actors as well too, because that's when you look at Deadpool again. How many big, huge movie stars do you have in that movie? No one. Ryan Reynolds, and he probably didn't get what he normally gets.
He probably took a lot of back end
Big
points.
time. Yeah, big time, because he was developing the movie and everything too. That again doesn't happen all the time. So I think that it's rare. We're not in. I think that it would be beneficial to movies like, because when you hear something like Gambit going to be 150 or 200 million dollars, so yeah, then we hear this news that Point Break is 150 million. Point Break should have cost 35 cents.
Yeah.
and yet it cost almost $200 million to make, and it's like, why? Who's making decisions over there? Stop it. There's no one. That's a movie, if you look at it, by all accounts, should be about $50-60 million.
Yeah, that's what I thought the budget was.
It should have been, because who's in that movie? No one. They spend so much money on locations and everything too. Whoever decided that movie should be 150 million, you're fired. You are fired. I'm firing you for the people that should be firing you. You're fired.
You're fired from Hollywood.
You're fired.
Don't come back.
Do you think they're going to do 50 or 60
No,
million?
because Deadpool is an exception to the rule, and also, when a lot of times they're talking about how the mid-budget ranged movies are gone, they're talking more about the adult dramas, right? The adult dramas, not the big budget ones. The one thing I do hope that Deadpool helps out with is maybe curb down something like you're talking about Gambit that's 150. Yes. Let's take that down to like 100, 110 or something like that, or start making movies in maybe the 90 to 100 range for the big budget. You don't always have to. Deadpool showed that we didn't have to have the end of the world happen at the end of the movie for it to be engaging. Yeah. We cared about the character, so maybe a focus on that.
I also thought, one of the things that they did, using Deadpool as an example again, by cutting that $7 million, because they were supposed to be like that big gun battle, and they cut it and they put in a really funny joke. I actually thought it worked better. I thought it worked. That's not always going to happen every time, though, too. But I think that when you rely on your story and your characters, that you don't always need the big set pieces. And I think that when you have that kind of budget, you go, oh, then we can do this. And it's like sometimes when you have a lower budget, you're challenged more, and then you wind up getting better stuff. I hope it happens that they start cutting budgets more. But with the amount of money the studio's making through these other big budget films, they're going to invest. Okay, that's it. That's this episode of Collider Mailbag. If you guys want to get some of your questions out there, make sure you go to collidervideo@gmail.com. Submit your questions. Put them all over the board. You want to ask Batman v Superman questions? Sure. You want to ask Star Wars? Fine. You want to ask behind-the-scenes questions? You want to ask any questions about film and being a movie lover? Go ahead and do it. That's why we're here, to answer your questions. I'd like to thank the panel today. First, the Tzeng Master, Dennis Tzeng. Where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter @ThinkHero, on Instagram, Dennis.tzeng.
And Natasha Martinez, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter @NatashaAlexis_.
And for me, I was just trying out my Facebook Live app. I'm doing that a lot. I'll be doing that a lot more here. If you want to check out that, go to my page on Facebook. Do that. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram @Kristian Harloff, as well as Jedi Council every Thursday. We have a lot of exciting things going on here. One of those things being tomorrow, we are doing our live. Well, it's not live, is it? No,
we are doing live.
We're doing it live. We're doing our live Oscar viewing. Make sure you do that. Check us out. Watch the Oscars with us. It's going to be a lot of fun to do that. And then we've got Schmodown coming. We have commentaries coming. We have reviews, trailer reviews, a lot of things coming in the pipeline here. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure you tune in. And then join us tomorrow. We're talking more Mailbag.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.